I think it is. We're gonna skip past the person. There, a lot of the committee members are here just to see what everyone has to say. So we're gonna skip out. JKP 13, the folks from Oklahoma. Would you like to make a comment?
No, we're just here to observe and watch a little. Thank you. Doing a great job.
All right. And I have someone listed as K's Galaxy S10. You have a comment? No? We'll move on. Marie, who's just on audio, I've noticed. Marie, do you want to make a comment? Apparently not. Maybe. She unmuted herself. Marie, would you like to make a comment? Okay, we'll move on. We'll come back around if anybody's got a follow-up question. Mark, Mark's iPad, Mark Reed, is that you?
No, we were just in here monitoring.
Okay, that's another Mark.
Yes, sir. Doing great.
Great, okay, well, I appreciate it, thank you. Michael Sprayberry. Give Michael a chance to unmute his mic. Maybe not. Aught user is what I'm seeing as the next. I skipped over Michelle and Monty. No offense to Michelle and Monty, but they've had a lot of time to think and about this topic. So aught user. Going once. Pat, do you have a comment for us?
Yep. Yes,
Hey, Pat.
I do. Hi, I'm Pat Tybee. I'm a permanent resident of Tybee. I live at 812 Butler Avenue. I read over the recommendations, and I believe you said the task force was, their job was to come up with how to control the problems with the alcohol other than outright banning alcohol.
Other than the limits on the consumption of alcohol in public areas like sidewalks and the beach and things like that.
Okay,
yes.
So what I have to say is not going to be popular. I hope you don't all hate me because I do live here permanently, but
Never.
As I read this over, in my mind, it does not address the problems that Chief Bryson said they were having. They were having a lot of problems with drunken behavior. And then when the police confront them, those situations can escalate. Now, we'd already talked, the city council had already talked previously about raising pay for police officers and how difficult it was to get police officers in spite of that. And a lot of times when they come out here, they don't want to stay because it's dangerous and they can make more money with less dangerous situations in other cities. And we had already decided that the Old Marine Science Center was going to be a police substation. So that's not something new. To me, in my mind, the only way you're going to really reduce the escalation that Chief Bryson was concerned about and brought to council in the first place is if we reduce alcohol consumption. In my mind, the way you do that is by restricting the use of alcohol on the beach everywhere on Tybee Island, and that eliminates the coolers, the open containers on the beach, and then you don't have people with coolers sitting in the hot sun all day drinking, and at the end of the day they're drunk, they're going to be on Route 80, they're going to cause accidents. Later in the day they cause the escalation. We had the shots fired in a domestic situation in front of a child. We've had drownings because of people intoxicated. So I would still like to go back and have that recommendation that there is a restriction of alcohol. That's what I have to say, and thank you for listening, and thank you to the people who were on the work group for spending so much time and effort to come up with recommendations. I know you really worked hard. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate you standing up and speaking your mind. Roger and Tanya Huff are next on my list.
Yeah, hi. All I had to say was that I want to reiterate what I think the second feller said. I couldn't remember. He was after Bart. That while all of these things are good ideas, they don't seem to really address what was really the focus of the problem brought up about mostly people, drinking coolers all day and getting drunk and becoming angry and wanting to fight. And so I don't really see any of these solutions or these recommendations that address the issue of somebody who's belligerently drunk and starting to get and how to mitigate their angry, violent behavior. But I offer no solutions to that. I think everybody's done a good job, and it's they've provided some really good ideas. I'm not really a big fan of more police because usually that just is not fun. When police are around, you can't have fun. So I'm not a good. I don't really recommend having more police, but I guess if we have to, we have to.
Thank you, Roger. I have Ron. It's Ron's iPad anyway. Ron, are you on there? He is still muted. So we're going to jump to Schroeder is the next name on my list. Do we know who that is? Schroder is the only name on the list. If you're trying to speak, you are muted. I think they're trying. Hey.
Gotcha.
Yes, who we have here?
Mark Schroeder.
Hey, Mark, good to hear from you.
Good to hear from you.
All right, did you have a comment?
A brief one. A question, actually. When we say that the changes will be driven by the users, is this saying that the bar owners will be charged more money now? Or?
I think the intent of the committee, and I'll ask the committee to clarify this when they meet again. It's a great question, Mark. But if I understand, their intent was the people who are consuming the alcohol and causing the problem should be the one bearing the burden.
How do you make that come down?
Yeah,
that's my understanding.
Yeah,
but
hard to do.
I don't want to speak for the committee.
Right.
And what we'll do is I'll write that question down, and we'll clarify that next week when they meet.
Okay.
What about the data on the police chief?
Yeah, the data about the number of.
He says.
Yeah, the data about cases that are DUIs or different types of calls that they go on, it doesn't seem to be on point.
What data we were looking at was really high percentage of alcohol related calls, and the number of times that they've had to use force over the last 4 years. It took a jump 4 years ago, and it's kind of stayed at a higher level. And that was a concern then. And I don't have that data in front of me.
I don't either, but it seems like it was less last year. And I don't know. We'll have to look at the numbers.
Right. And I think you'd want to look at multiple years to see what the trends are and that sort of thing. And that's
Right,
what we were
exactly.
trying to do when we presented the data to the committee.
Hey, Sean, it's Mary.
Go ahead, Mary.
Marie Rodriguez has posted a message asking you to let her back in because she's dialed back in on a different device.
Got it. And I'll have to go back. Thank you so much. And I'm going to get to the,
Hey, this is Ron. Can I break in?
No.
no,
Sean.
hang on one second. We're
Sean,
doing this in orderly fashion.
I'll bide my time to that gentleman, but
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
done.
That's Ron from before. We're going to jump back to Ron.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just figured out how to unmute.
That's okay.
Can I talk now?
You sure can. Go right ahead, Ron. Thanks,
Okay.
Mark.
First thing I want to say is you've done a great job here with all these recommendations, and I like just about all of them. And I want to say also, I'm definitely not in favor of prohibition. Okay, as some of you seem to be, but I'm not in favor of that. But anyway, I got a question or two about some of these recommendations, and it's just a matter because I don't really understand what they mean. When it says better training for servers, they're talking about a safe server certification and a bar card requirement to eliminate. And I really don't know what that means, but
Yeah, well, currently there's a bar card requirement that isn't really enforced thoroughly, never has been. And it basically, you go and you pay $10 to the city for every person who works for you, and they get a card.
oh, okay.
It doesn't mean anything other than you're serving at that location.
My
What
concern
the SafeServe is a program that is put on, and it's online training through the National Restaurant Association, I believe is the organization. And it teaches about over-serving and recognizing the signs of someone who's had too much to consume and that sort of thing. And so.
Okay, well, my comments on those things would be, as long as they're not terribly egregious in enforcing or don't have a tremendous cost to the bar owner, then I would be in favor of those. But also the liability insurance, liquor liability insurance, that's also kind of a questionable thing to me. Is, you know, if that's a moderate cost, I say fine. But if it's really complicated and expensive, then you might want to take another look at that.
Well, and I think that was something we took a lot of input directly from some of the folks in the committee who own businesses. I'm not going to speak for them, but I'll take your comment back to the committee next Tuesday. The folks who own the bars on the committee, their organizations already had that insurance.
Okay.
Okay.
And my last comment is the very second to the last item on this list. It says increase enforcement of current rules and laws related to behavior. And I strongly agree with that one. We've got laws, we just need to enforce them better.
Yes, thank you very much. And I did state to the committee that let's understand what that means, that we're going to be enforcing this. That means someone's going to complain about it, but we'll continue to enforce. Hang on, I'm gonna make some notes on your comments and then we'll jump to
Sean, excuse me, but when people speak, because so many of us here don't know each other, could each person give their full name and where they live so we can get to know each other a little better?
Yes, I will ask them to. Yes, thank you. That was Ron who was speaking. Anna, you're next on my.
Ron, what was Ron's last name and where does he live?
My name is Ron Jacob, but I have 3 short-term rental properties on the south end of the island.
Thank you, Ron. It's nice to meet you.
Good to
Thank
meet
you. If you have a request or a comment, when you break in like that, that does cause some disruption in the flow here. So you can make a comment in the comments section. And I will get to that and we'll correct that. And so thank you, Pat. We will try to make sure everyone introduces themselves. I've got Shannon Heather. Shannon Heather's iPhone is next.
It's Todd, Sean.
Hey, Todd.
Hey, Sean.
Okay, we'll move on. We're not gonna take comments from the committee because not everyone's here and I don't want to have
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
Let's see. Sherry, do you have a comment? I think that's Sherry Simmons. No? You need to unmute if you do. Making some notes. Okay. I see the mayor was next on my list, but we'll jump to Shirley Wright. Shirley, do you have a comment?
I do. Thank you, Sean. I'm representing myself tonight and no one else. So I want to make that point clear. I want to thank Sean and the committee, and I do have copies of my comments that I'll be happy to give you for the file.
That would be great.
So you don't have to.
I'll
I really
take notes.
thank you. I want to thank the committee, and I also want to thank the chief and the police force who spoke so consistently and candidly and provided the data that they did. I've listened to every meeting, and I went back today and read every summary of those meetings again. And I just want to draw some points from those for the committee to consider in their last meeting. From Major Phobes' data in that first meeting, here were the problems that they identified as a whole force. The number of tourists we have and the large number of problems that they generate that translate to excessive police calls. Excessive drinking of alcohol on the island nonstop that creates public safety problems. Recruitment and retention of police officers to take a job on Tybee where it's harder to work for them than in other locations because perhaps we're not dealing with some of the issues that cause those problems. And number 4, the special concern about the use of force in incidents that you talked about, Sean, that could lead to the risk of injury or death of a police officer or a tourist and create one of those state and national publicity issues about Tybee as a dangerous location. So we heard that the first meeting, and then the police continued to talk throughout these committee meetings, and I see them as the experts on this situation. We all have opinions and we all have conflicts of interest. You don't live on Tybee and not have that. But they talked about the use of force incidents. They talked about that there are DUI problems all over the island, not just on the south end. They talked about the large number of officers to address the issues may not help the situation and may actually hurt it because you've got more eyes on more problems to deal with. Chief Bryson said that they currently have 5 vacancies and that as long as he's been here, they've never had a full department, which certainly leads us to think about how hard it is to get people here, and that part-time or contract officers are more difficult to manage and may cost more. What the police said they wanted to see was a curbing of drinking on the beach that lasts all day and into the morning hours and leads to aggression and fights, domestic violence, and that it was a cause and effect situation with alcohol. And I will quote one of them who said you could have 30 more officers and it would not solve the problem. They told us they had asked other communities about what they had done to deal with this, and they were told that the best solution is to limit in some way the intake of alcohol. Nobody suggested prohibition, but they did talk about limitation. What the committee tried to solve was to eliminate any further discussion of open container, which was their mission, how to add more police officers, how to get Chatham County to pay for more officers or provide more officers, how to create more presence, how to set up roadblocks, whether the bars or restaurants should have liquor license and that have liquor licenses should have insurance, how to get the staff to be better trained, and how to market the rules to the tourist. At one point, there was a limiting beach alcohol consumption topic, but that devolved into a discussion of wristbands to allow drinking. And then that whole topic was later eliminated and no further topic to discuss it was considered. So the recommendations from the committee, I think there are some decent ideas. They're not bad ideas, but in my opinion, none of them really address the real issue on Tybee. And the way that I would sum that up would be how to have public safety and police safety in an environment where there is endless, unbridled drinking by an excessive number of people who create these public safety concerns. The last thing I want to say is that the advice and recommendations of the police were basically ignored. And so either that means that they didn't hear the police and what they said, they didn't believe the police and what they said, or that I think we need to just say we are not willing to even try, even for a specified time period, what the police say they believe would work and what other coastal communities have found that the solution could be. So I would like to ask you, Sean, and this hardworking committee to go back and address this real issue and have an honest discussion about what could happen. And one other thing that was never mentioned was treatment, any kind of treatment for the alcohol problems that exist on this island, for people who live here and for whom alcohol in their home is not always a fun experience. Thank you.
Shirley, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. I'm going to move quickly to the next person, Stephanie Papp. Hey, Stephanie, how are you?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good.
I didn't want to follow Shirley.
Sorry, it was just a random listing. Sorry.
So well spoken, but I'll just put a couple of 2 cents in. I think it all comes down to the visibility, really. You know, like I know, for an example, 75% of the time I drive down Butler Avenue, I'm going to see 1, maybe 2 police officers. So what do? I put myself on cruise control at 30 because that's something I don't want to deal with. We see a lot. We live on Strand. We face, you know, the Strand parking lot. We see a pretty good presence of parking enforcement. And when visitors see parking enforcement, they're more apt to go and pay the fees instead of getting a ticket. I think it really all comes down to code enforcement starting on the beach. That's where the problems seem to come from. Jennifer and I were out there, you know, New Year's Day, and it's strategy. You know, we see code enforcement come down for 30 minutes. We might see them 3 times, but then we don't see them for another hour and a half. And what happens in that hour and a half that they're not a presence could be starting everything that snowballs into the night. So I think just strategy with code enforcement on the beach would probably solve a lot of these problems. And I'll stop there and I'll hand it over to Jennifer.
Hi, Sean.
Hi, Jennifer. Good to hear from you.
Good to see you. I just had a question. So you're going, the committee and you are going to present these to City Council, but there's no, like, City Council doesn't have to accept these. They can accept them, or they can just disregard them and kind of go rogue. And can they go back to the alcohol, ban on the beach and stuff? Can they do their own thing, or what actually can they do or cannot do?
And I'm going to say this with the caveat that Bubba will correct anything legal, but in general, the process for this specific process is it's going to go back to the committee. They're going to take all of your comments, and if the committee chooses to make changes to the recommendations, they'll do it next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Then we'll present it to the City Council. And you are correct, the City Council, these are recommendations to the City Council. They can choose to take them up and make them policy, or they can choose not to. They can choose to make some of them policy and some not. So that is where that would be. And the city council can always change the ordinances to no matter what, as long as it's within the legal parameters of their authority to do anything they want. So yeah, I mean, it's, I can't speak for the council on where they would go with these. I don't know what their opinion of these are, but we'll present them as was our charge, and we'll see where they take it from there.
But in theory, like after they took that first reading of the alcohol ban on the beach in the open container, so they took that away, but they could in theory go ahead and propose that again and do a first and second reading and still pass it if they want to, regardless of the outcome of this committee, correct?
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
I just want to make sure I understood the process.
Yeah, their authority is their authority. They created this committee to give them a recommendation, but they certainly could go a different direction.
Okay, thank you.
But you would have to ask them as individual council members what they would plan to do. So. Okay, does that answer your question? Do you have anything else?
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm gonna Steve's iPad. Did we? Susan.
Hey, Sean. Steve Williams here. How you doing?
Steve, good. Thank you. I want to make sure I had the right. Well, I wasn't getting out of order. Go ahead. What's your comment?
Hey, I live back here on 12th and 2nd, and I love the format you're doing, and the suggestions all sound good. And my only comment would be for the law-abiding citizens that go down to the beach and have a good time and clean all their messes up, and we come back, don't make us unlawful citizens just as we want to go down there and drink a couple of beers. Or maybe it's more than a couple, but you know what I mean. So
I know what you mean. Leave
I
the
appreciate
lawful
it.
citizens.
Right. If you ever walk by and see the flag flying on 12th Street, that's me.
Got it. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Susan Adams.
Can you hear?
I'm sorry.
Hello there?
I can hear you.
So Shirley Wright is the best. Everything that she said more eloquently than what I can say. But just to reiterate, the committee seems to say, well, we need more police. We need more police. If we could even get more police, which was not even an issue or a possibility before all this. If we don't enforce what or give them what they say they need, it's a slap in the face of the police force. And I would think it would make it more difficult to find even more police. But how many, I mean, if in this committee's thought, how many police do you think would make it possible to take away our problem? The problem is there's too much. I mean, surely I'm a drinker, no question about it. But I mean, to be drinking out on the street and whatever, the police have a problem, and we're not. And it doesn't sound like the committee wants to give them what they need to make things better. So if we had 50 police on the force, it would still be a problem. That's all I have to say, because Shirley Wright was fabulous. Fabulous.
Okay.
So thank you for acknowledging me.
No problem, sis. Thank you. Teresa Patres. Teresa.
Hello there.
Hi, Teresa. Good to hear from you. How are you?
Good to see y'all. I'm just here to listen and observe and see what I can learn. So
great.
Thank you, everybody on the committee.
Thank you. Tim Bozard.
We're permanent residents over on Lewis Avenue. I just listening, don't have any comments. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tim. Trey Connors, person that was at every single one of our committee meetings. Did a great job of summarizing them. Trey, are you out there? Do you have a comment? He needs to unmute.
All right.
Hey, Trey.
I figured it out. Okay. Anyway, I just want to say good evening to everyone and thank you, Sean. I appreciate you and the committee and everything that's been done. Just a couple of comments. I do believe, having attended all the meetings, that increased enforcement or police presence, if you will, I think is is very warranted here, you know, for the number of alcohol issues that you're having down front. And to Mrs. Wright's point, no one ignored the police. I mean, this made it all the way to, you know, a first reading of council and was passed, and no one even knew about it in the public or business owners. So I just think, you know, I'm pro-police, pro-military all the way. And I just think, you know, increased enforcement, officers getting out of the car, walking down front, being seen, I think is pretty important. And then the last thing I have is a question. With the liquor liability insurance, is that for the bars that currently require or carry that, is it something separate that they would have to have on top of what they carry?
No, sir. And I think the committee's understanding is a lot of the bars currently already have that. So no, it'd be, if they currently have it, that's what we're talking about.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Trey. And again, thank you for attending all the meetings and doing a summary. Let's see, we got Tybee Seaside Rentals, and I've got WSAV, and then I have a phone number left. Then we're going to jump into the comments section. Who is out on Tybee Seaside Rentals? And I know the folks from WSAV have told me they're just here to observe. Who is just the phone number? 912-269, I'm sorry, 695-0724. Okay. Well, I'm going to jump over into the comments, and then we're going to follow up with people that have their hand up. And I'm trying to get to a specific comment that we haven't addressed yet. I think Elizabeth Anderson, I think doing additional checkpoints will increase burden for the police department and further slow down traffic on already busy weekends. So I'm not a big fan of the idea of checkpoints for this issue. Thank you, Elizabeth. We'll take that into consideration. Marie, oh, I see. Marie has just joined us. Marie Rodriguez, I think we need to get to you in the first round of comments. Marie.
Hello. A lot of people have already said what I was thinking. Trey stole my thunder. But anyways, I have been here for 30 years. And I remember when I was young and first living here on 16th Street, there were police presence all the time. They rode bicycles and they walked up and down. I don't remember a lot of police problems then, but I'll tell you what, I don't drink, but even being out there, the most of us was scared to show our butts because you knew you were going to get arrested because the cops were driving around on their bikes all the time or walking up and down the street. So I do have two questions. When we're saying violent crimes, what are we talking about exactly? Are we talking about domestics, DUIs? What are we talking about when we say that they need help with?
The terminology we used was the use of force has gone up. The number of times they've had to use force. We didn't use the phrase violent crime because that has a specific definition. This was any time they've had to use force of any kind to arrest someone. They have to fill out a form, and that's part of the process. So I think that might help clarify that.
And then what we're saying is if the committee is, saying that they recommend more police, blah, blah, blah. Basically, the citizens getting arrested would be the ones paying for this extra police or whatever we need, correct?
I don't think it's that specific. I think it's somehow that through the, people who come to visit pay for parking, they pay for hotel motel tax, they pay a liquor by the drink tax, that in some way it's passed along to the visitors to the island that are driving behind the cost.
Okay, so my last thing is, and I just would like anybody to please, answer in the comments, find me on Facebook, give me a call, I don't care, I would love to hear from everybody. When I talked to the police, they said 90% of the problems are from visitors, they're not from the residents. So what, I'm trying to find what's the solution to that. We're not going to go back to Tybee 30 years ago when we didn't have hardly any visitors or vacation rentals. So since visitors and vacation rentals are here to stay, what is the solution to that? Since 90% of the people are visitors, they're not, you know, I would like to know what everybody thinks that the solution would be then.
Are we talking about the number of people on the island?
They told me that 90% of the noise ordinance and 90% of these alcohol-related problems they have are not Tybee residents, but are visitors to the islands.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what your question is.
So I'm saying, like, the people, let's say the people that have STVRs, what would you, you know, if you were coming to Tybee and saying, hey, we're going to try to help you with this, we understand that 90% of the people are people that are visitors, whether they're day trippers or staying here for the week or whatever, what would their solutions be to this problem?
Okay. I understand your question now, so I would, I'll take that back to the committee to see what they would want to do with that.
I'm asking the STVR people or the people that have people come here. I would like them to get in touch with me with their opinions. But anyways, I'm going to mute myself back again.
Okay. Thanks, Marie. Good to hear from you. I'm going to go down here again. I think we got some back and forth in the comment section, so I'm trying to weed into and trying to figure out the what are comparable communities doing on this. We're going to share all. I was trying to make sure if there's any questions we answer right now. We will print out all these comments in the comment section and share with the committee next week.